In this video, we're going to be taking a look at each and every squad pack from Star Wars Shatterpoint and ranking it. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Big Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. Welcome to this, another Star Wars Shatterpoint video. And I don't know about you guys, but I am really looking forward to Ministravaganza over this weekend. Kicking off today at 5 PM UK time. I don't know where that is, where else you are in the world, but really looking forward to it and seeing what we've got upcoming for both Star Wars Shatterpoint and indeed Marvel Crisis Protocol. But we are talking all about Shatterpoint today, and I've been wanting to do this for a little while and I've been trying to think of the best format to do it in, but what I want to do is take a look at each of the individual squad boxes that we have in Star Wars Shatterpoint and ranking them based on a number of different things. Now, it's both a really good thing and a really bad thing, the way in which AMG have built these squad boxes for us. It does indeed mean that you can buy a complete squad. You buy a single box and it's got everything you need in there for one squad. You buy two squad boxes and hey presto, you've got yourself a strike team. So it makes the accessibility of the game really good and really easy. And also from a marketing standpoint, it's really nice to have those 4, sometimes 3, sometimes 5 figures all in the same box. But it does lead to a few problems when it comes to balance, because each individual box needs to be balanced rather than the individual units or characters themselves. So it does lead us into quite a few situations where there are some boxes with some absolutely amazing characters in there, but the rest of the box isn't particularly good. And then on the other hand, we've got some standalone boxes that are absolutely amazing and some of the best, not just units, but entire squads in the game right now. So let's jump in and let's take a look at how we are going to be scoring these. So we're going to break it down into 2 components for the scoring. So first of all, each unit in the box can earn points based on the following. So 1 point for just being okay, 2 points for being a good unit, 3 points for being a great unit, and 4 points for being amazing. And then additionally, I'm going to be handing out some bonus points for being best in class for their given faction. Now, because there are no real factions in this game, the way that I've done it and the way that I've broken it down is there are going to be sub-factions and there are going to be primary factions. So your primary factions are going to be the likes of Galactic Republic, Galactic Empire, Rebels, Separatists, so on and so forth. And then your sub-factions are going to be more like your Dathomir, where yes, they may one day be a full faction by themselves, but right now they're quite small in terms of what they have. Another one could be Scoundrels, for example, so on and so forth. And then for the actual squad box themselves, they're going to get some points based on how competitive that overall box is. They're going to get 1 point for being, well, just fine. Okay, they do work together because they're a squad pack, so there will be synergy, there will be there will be the right points as well, but not much more than that. 3 points are going to be squad packs that really work together well, viable to play, but if you had the choice, you would probably swap out a character or a unit for a different unit from a different box. And then lastly, they're going to get 5 bonus points for being a competitive squad unto themselves with absolutely no changes. And given the choice right now today with where the game is, you wouldn't really swap any characters out. Okay, so with all that being said and done, let's jump over and let's take a look at the, yes, indeed, tier list. Okay guys, so we have got our tier list here, and you can see what I've done with these points is I've then taken them, broken them down, no spoilers, but broken them down into a spreadsheet, put the point totals on there, and then those points will indeed correlate to a ranking. So let's start off then. So the way that I'm going to sort of see this is, S tier are going to be those packs that are, they work absolutely well by themselves. They're really competitive. They're full of really good characters, and they're just really, really good value. A are going to be absolutely, still good, but it may be that within those packs you would swap out a character or two. B are going to be perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable. There's some good characters in there. There might be a bad character in there, and you'll take those you'll take those individual components and maybe go and make mix and match them with one or two other boxes and make some really, really good squads. C is going to be, there might be one character in there that's really good, and it scores just enough to keep them out of that D tier, or not quite enough to be in that B tier, but there's usually some little gems in there. And then D tier, for the most part, is going to be the overall box is just really not good. Even that one individual character in there that might be absolutely fine just isn't enough right now in the game to drag it out of that D tier, or probably even make it worth buying unless you've got a very, very specific plan for it. So let's start things off then, and we're going to be starting with the core box. Now the core box is obviously a little bit different because it comes with 4 squads, and whilst you can indeed mix and match any of those squads, AMG were very clear from the outset that there were 4 distinct squads in here. So the first one is going to be the Mandalorian Dathomir Lord Maul box. So we've got Lord Maul as the primary, who I think is still to this day a great character. You see him outside of his sort of natural homes a lot of the time. He's a great replacement for any other sort of 8 cost or leader that brings 8 squad points with them. He doesn't use any force himself. His downsides are that he does only have 2 durability, which does mean that he can be susceptible to being taken off the board as a primary, which you never really want. But overall, very, very strong character still in this game today. Gaz Saxon, yeah, he's okay. A little bit like the actual Mandalorian Commandos themselves. I'd actually say they were good. I do think they are still pretty good characters, and I think we will see more play with them as we get more Mandalorian characters released. But they scored a total of 10 points, which is just enough. Actually, no, is more than enough to see them into that C tier. Like I say, it's a little bit difficult or a little bit different with the core boxes, but I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think that's absolutely fine for them. Okay, core set number 2 then is going to be Anakin, it's going to be Rex, and it's going to be the 501st. And we really have everything from great down to terrible in this box. Obviously, Rex being the standout character or the standout unit in this squad, still to this day, is very, very good. If you're taking what I call a traditional Galactic Republic list, so not the Bad Batch version, but a traditional Galactic Republic list, with clones and Jedis and things like that, he is your absolute go-to when it comes to secondaries. Anakin is, I think, fair to middling in terms of a leader. He suffers from that kind of early box syndrome where he's just not quite good enough. He doesn't really have that movement himself to be able to get around. He is reliant on other people. And then the 501st, arguably some of the worst support units in the game. Desperately need an errata to make them viable. Overall, though, they do score 8 points, so it will put them just behind the Lord Maul box. Okay, then. Core set number 3 for this one, we've gone with Ahsoka. We've gone with the Clan Kryze Mandalorians, and then we have gone with Bo-Katan. And for me, Lady Bo-Katan Kryze is not necessarily the standout character in this box right now, but we've spoke about it before. I actually spoke about it when I was over on the Hello There podcast, where I think her value is going to go up and up and up as we get more Mandalorians released. That protection bubble that she brings is so good. We've seen it in use with Wrecker and Omega in a sort of Bad Batch, Galactic Republic list, and I really think Bo-Katan can become that same sort of character for them. Clan Kryze are arguably the lesser of the two Commandos, the lesser of the two Mandalorian support units that we've got at the moment. They're a little bit lackluster. Ideally what you want is actually Bo-Katan with the Super Mandalorian or the Mandalorian Super Commandos. They do work much, much better. And then Ahsoka, I've never been a big fan of, but she is quite flexible. She does have the Galactic Republic tag, but you don't see her with Galactic Republic a huge amount. But she can absolutely do some work on the tabletop. These guys are going to score a total of 8 points as well, so putting them into that C tier category. But I do think they probably do just... actually, no, I would say even as good as I think Bo-Katan is going to be in the future, she isn't there right now, and I don't think she'll ever be the kind of poster child or poster boy that Rex is for the Galactic Republic. Okay then, so lastly in the core box, we have got set 4, which is going to be Asajj Ventress, the B1s, and Kalani. Let's start with Asajj Ventress. I think still a very underrated primary in the game. For me, in the right situation, in either Separatists or Dathomir, I actually think overall she does a better job than Maul. So for me, I think she is the best of the primaries that we see in the core box. Maybe, one-on-one standalone she isn't, but she does do a lot. Yes, Maul is that little bit more flexible because he doesn't use the Force in the same way that Asajj wants to, but Asajj can get around the board, dish out damage really well, and let's not forget, does have that Force push as well. B1s, they're 3 points. They're definitely not the best 3-point unit that Separatists have. That would definitely have to go to the Magna Guard, but they are a really viable option if you want to run a full set list and you do want to do that full droid list, and be able to take Kalani with you as well, because you need you're going to be taking Dooku obviously, and you really need Kalani in there, or the B3, the B1s in there to be able to have those 5 points left for Kalani. And Kalani is just so good in the right setup. He is absolutely amazing in shifting priorities, middling in Sabotage Showdown, and then never tell me the odds. I've not actually had a chance to play with him on there yet, but I'm just not a big fan of that map. They're going to score 12 points overall, which is going to put them right in just off the cut-off point for C tier, and take them into B tier. Okay, and just to actually say, guys, we are doing these in release order, because one of the things I want to discuss at the end of this is, are we seeing power creep in this game? It's something I keep hearing time and time again, and so I thought doing these in release order will give us an idea as to whether or not there has been power creep. Starting out the release alongside the core box, we have got the Hello There squad pack. This is obviously Obi-Wan's squad pack. Obi-Wan, still to this day, absolutely, if you're going to play traditional Galactic Republic with all the clones, he is really the primary that sort of brings all of that together. Works with Rex incredibly well, with that synergy with, you know, them being able to keep their hunkers, Rex dishing out the hunkers, but also with the heals as well. So really, really good. The problem with this box is that whilst the 212 I think are absolutely fine, they are really, really let down by Cody. Cody just is not a viable leader. Viable secondary in the game. Just, you know, you really, really need to swap Cody out. You know, you could argue you could keep the 212, but you really need to be swapping Cody out for another secondary. Now, for those people that were lucky enough in the early days and they got the Ahsoka Tano, that was really nice and easy, or Padawan Ahsoka Tano, because Cody was a very easy straight swap. Even with just the core box and this box, you had two pretty decent squads. minus the 501st, but unfortunately he is being dragged down quite a lot by Cody, and because of that, they are, or he is just going to make it into B tier, but he is going to be behind Asajj. Whereas with Asajj's box, I feel like you can run it independently without making any changes. And if you compare these two box for box, overall, I do genuinely believe that that the Asajj box is much better. Okay, twice the Pride box. This is going to be Dooku, it's going to be Jango, and it's going to be the Magna Guard. Oh dearie me, this is a box and a half. What can we say about this box? Well, I mean, first and foremost, obviously, Dooku is still a very, very, very solid leader. He is, for my money, he is probably fighting best in class alongside Grievous in Separatists. But the absolute star, in fact, it's not even just this box, but, you know, not even just this character, but, you know, the star of the show in this box is Jango. Not only does he work extremely well in Separatists, so I have put him as my best in class secondary for Separatists. Yes, Kalani is absolutely amazing, but Jango just does so much work. I've also put the Magna Guard as my best in class for the for the support units as well. I think they're really good. They score just under the threshold to get them into S tier, but they are very much at the top of A. As a standalone pack, these are great. When you add in even just, again, I think one of the things AMG did really well was being able to take one of these two additional boxes, match it up with the squads that come in the core boxes, and having a really strong kind of early doors squad. Do they stand up today? Well, we will see as we get further into this, but I think this is still a very strong squad pack. Definitely has dropped off a little bit with the newer maps. You know, again, the first mission pack that comes in the core box, shifting priorities, Seps just own that. Less so, and they've had diminishing returns, Separatists overall, with the other mission packs that have come out. But Jango doesn't care. Jango just performs and excels across the board. Okay, plans and preparation next. This is going to be the Luminara box. There are some good things about this box, and there are some bad things about this box. Let's talk about the bad things first and finish on a good. The Republic clone Commandos only having 6 health and costing 4, or 6 stamina and costing 4, really makes them struggle. They are definitely the worst of the 4-cost supports for Galactic Republic. And there's an argument to say that they are, you know, per point as bad as, if not worse than, the 501st. Probably not quite as bad as the 501st, but yeah, definitely down at the bottom end. Luminara has had a little bit of a resurgence of late. She's kind of found a couple of homes where she can work really, really well. Weirdly, generally not in a Galactic Republic sort of end-to-end list, which is great that people find homes. The one character who I think still is yet to really find her place is Barriss Offee. Just seems to struggle a little bit, needs a lot of force, has good movement, but really wants a lot of force to be able to do what it is she wants to do. And don't get me wrong, a force push on a secondary is most definitely not to be sniffed at, but with no real way of being able to refresh that force, spending 2 is quite difficult. And I don't believe she has access to it via her tree, or if she does, it's quite difficult to get to. But all that said, they're going to score 9 points. It's going to put them firmly into C tier and just ahead of the 2 core boxes, or 2 of the core box units. Jedi Hunters next. This is going to be the Inquisitorial box with the Grand Inquisitor, the brothers, the sisters. And again, we've got a bit of a splattering here of really good and really bad characters. Now, as we've got to it, let's talk about what we do in a situation where we have a squad box that has more than one option for a role. Because in this box, we have 2 options for the support unit, because it is only a single character support unit, but you get 2 different options. You get 5th brother and you get 4th sister. So what I've done is I've just picked the one that I think is the best and scored it around that, because then it keeps the scoring equal and we're not having this sort of jankiness of, well, we're basing it on a squad, but then a character, you end up scoring double for something. So I didn't want that. But yeah, Jedi Hunters. Look, Grand Inquisitor is fine. Is fine. The problem in this box isn't with the Grand Inquisitor. It's with the secondary choice. Reva is just absolutely terrible. Scores, I think the only other character so far that scores 0, 501st. Oh no, sorry, 501st and the Commandos scored 0 as well, because I don't think they're fine. They really need a change to make them viable. Oh, and Cody. So there's been a couple actually. But yeah, scores 0. But the absolute star of the show in here is 5th brother. Yes, he's only a single support unit, but he does break ties, which, as we know, the impact that can have on the game is huge. He's also just a really, really good character overall. They're going to score 11 points in total. So I now have a decision to make and say, well, what is better? Is Obi-Wan better, or is the Grand Inquisitor box better overall? And I would say overall, it's probably looking at Obi-Wan and 5th and saying who has a bigger impact. And I think for me, Obi-Wan has a bigger impact than 5th, even though 5th is absolutely amazing. So I think they're in B tier is absolutely fine for them and where they should be. Appetite for Destruction. This is going to be General Grievous's box, who again I think is a really good character. Like I said, in contention for best in class for Separatists. I did give it to Dooku, but he is definitely up there. And what I really like about this squad pack is you can play it as it is, even today in the game, and I still think it holds up. I really do think it holds up. Now, can you, could you optimize this? Yeah, absolutely. You could, you could pull a character out here and mix and match and everything else. But actually, I think, playing Separatists right now at the moment, with the maps that we've got, Kraken is probably overall the better option of the two sort of tactical droids. So I actually think that, if you want to play Separatists right now today, your best bet of playing them is buying the Dooku box and buying the Grievous box and playing them as is. And actually, I think that's a pretty competitive squad that you've got yourself. So these guys, they're scoring 13 points in total. It's going to take them all the way to the top of B tier. I don't think this box is as good overall as the Dooku box, and the main reason for that is going to be Jango. Jango is arguably the best single unit in the game right now. There's an argument between him and Obi-Wan. I would pick Jango over Obi-Wan because Jango can have a bigger impact during his turn versus Obi-Wan, who has the impact during kind of your turn or during his opponent's turn. So yeah, they're going to go to the top of B, and let's move on to this party's over. This is going to be the Mace Windu box. This box again, we see a trend, especially in the Republic, where they have either really strong primaries and then the secondaries weak and the supports are okay, or really weak, primary unit, but then the secondary is absolutely amazing. There isn't really a single, at least so far, there hasn't really been a single cohesive box for the Republic, or I'll call them traditional Republic, that is just absolutely amazing. But this part is over. Mace Windu, Pons, and the ARF troopers. Mace Windu, I think, is still good. One of the things that lets him down is that he does have to bring Pons with him, right? That is just a trade-off. So as good as he is, you have to bring Pons. And now with the new timing rules, he's actually less good than what he was before, because you can't use coordinated fire with any of his reactive abilities as well. So his stock has dropped. But stars of the show in this box, guys, is absolutely the ARF troopers. I've put them as amazing, so they've scored top points for that, and I've put them as best in class for support for the Galactic Republic. People will play a point down to play ARF troopers. That should give you an indication as to how good these models really, really are. But the box again is dragged down by Pons. Pons, the only situation where you really end up having to use Pons is if you are playing Mace Windu. And that's really the only place where he lives right now, unfortunately. So, yeah, because of that, they are going to score 12 points. So it is going to put them level with the... Which ones is it? Yeah, with the droids from the core box. I think for me, I am going to put them... I think because you've got a best-in-class unit here, even though they're the same point, I think overall they're about the same in terms of how good they are, which, the math there worked that out for me. But I think because we've got the ARF troopers in there, makes this pack that much more desirable, because if you're playing Galactic Republic, you really want those ARF troopers. Okay, next up we have got Witches of Dathomir. This box has a couple of things going for it, and it has some things that are against it. First of all, as a cohesive unit, Witches of Dathomir work really, really well. You've got Mother Talzin as the primary, who is a really, really good primary. Not S tier by any stretch of the imagination, but a really good primary. You've got Savage Opress, who is very, very solid, especially in a Dathomir list where he's healing himself. He's got ready access to that expose from the Night Sisters. And then you've got the Night Sisters themselves, who can dish out a huge amount of damage, have a lot of movement. Movement's actually another thing that Savage has. The one thing these guys are lacking really is really good access to shoves. And that's one of the things that lets them down. The other thing is that they're not a complete faction. They're one of these sub-factions that I mentioned. The most number of Dathomir units you can have on the board at any one time is 4, this box, and then either Asajj Ventress or Lord Maul. There's no Knight Brothers, there's no addition, there's no other secondary option. So they do struggle a little bit because of that. So you're often then reliant on bringing something else to sort of try and fill the gap. And it doesn't always work too well. But overall, I think this is a really solid box. I played Witchers a hell of a lot, and I played this box for quite some time. Yes, I dabbled with swapping Savage out with Django depending on what I was running as my secondary, but these guys absolutely solid. They score 14 points, which just does enough to get them into the A tier, but we're going to see them drop down the A tier as we move along this. We are the Brave. Now, this is a really interesting squad pack because individually there are arguably no sort of amazing units in this pack, and individually, if you are running a Galactic Republic, none of these units kind of displace any of their counterparts in Galactic Republic, right? There are lots of better primaries than Queen Amidala. There are, better secondaries than Padme, than Sabe, sorry. And then, the Handmaidens are fine, but, ARC Troopers and arguably Wolfpack are better. Where these work really well, this is really so I've put each of these characters as just being good, right? They're all good characters. None of them are great. None of them are amazing. But as a squad, they synergize so well with each other because of those handmaiden tags. And whereas we've seen with other packs where they're kind of like a little sub-faction, or at least some of the packs where they are a little sub-faction within a faction, they don't work too well. Or they're just, they have some unique tags that no others have, looking at you, Weakways, and it just doesn't work. With this squad pack, it really does. And I was quite surprised when I was putting this together and when I started looking at the rules, because these are some characters that I rarely play. But actually, when you break it down and look at it, they're really good. They're really good as a squad by themselves. They've got great synergy, and it's actually made me think, do you know what? I'm maybe gonna take a look at these again and see whether or not it's something that I think I could work with. They're scoring 14 points. It just puts them into the A tier. The question is, are they better than or worse than the Witches of Dathomir? And I think honestly, they're about the same. What's going to bump them up for me is the fact that they have the rest of the Galactic Republic to be working with. So they can take, a Plo Koon pack, or they can take a Vader list if they really wanted to. So I think, these guys are absolutely fine. Okay, guys, fistful of credits next, and this is a pack that I wanted to be really good. I love playing with Cad Bane. He is probably still to this day one of my favourite units in the entire game, but he is still only just a good to great character, right? A good to great unit. Aura Sin exists, and whilst I can't deliver or award anything less than a 0, I arguably could have given her minus something, because she is just so bad. So bad. Bounty Hunters are in here. They're okay. They're really just okay. And, one character in an entire box that is good to great with very little synergy, at least right now today, in their eras, and that's another thing as well, right, is eras are important, make this, really, really tough. And then the problem you've got with Cad Bane is, well, yeah, ideally you want to take him with Jango, right? You want to swap out Jango for Aura Singh, and then you've got Cad Bane Jango, but then you've got 5 points left. Well, the only other 5 cost support unit is IG. Guess what? He is a different era, so you can't play him. And actually, guess what? IG isn't that good, so you probably don't want to play him anyway. So, and you feel like you want to spend his points, but you really can't. So what you end up finding with Cad is that he ends up being in different places. I played him a lot with Jango, sorry, with Dooku. So because of that, guys, this pack is scoring low, even though it's got one of my favourite units in the game. Now, favourite doesn't mean best. One of my favourite units in the game. They really have yet to find their place, or the rest of the box to find their place. And, Cad Bane's good, but as a squad, they just really, really don't work right now. 7 points, unfortunately, guys, puts them into D tier. I do really think right now, unless you are a completionist and unless you have a very specific place that you want to play one of these characters, then it's probably a box that's worth just sort of, if you are looking at, you've got money to buy 2 boxes this month, and as long as the other one isn't any of the other ones that, sit below this, then there are definitely better ways to spend your money. Fearless and inventive. And do you know what, guys? We're in a very similar position in that I think Luke is fine. I think Luke is good to great as an individual unit. Yet to really find his place in Rebels. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, he's a selfish leader. And what do I mean by that is he's not doing anything for anybody else. Whilst he is Rebels, he has no Rebel synergy. So he's not giving anything back as an identity. Secondly, is he is a 7 cost, or he brings 7 squad points with him. And right now, when you look at the other Rebels that are out there, well, that means that you need 3 of something. And then you're either looking at Ewoks with a 3 cost support unit. You're looking at what comes in this pack in the form of 3PO and Lando, who, in my opinion, are absolutely terrible. Or the only other option is Luke in the new Leia pack, and you can't have Luke and Luke. So this box and these characters are yet to find their real space. Now, my only other hope for Boosh, and maybe even as a Boosh Leia, and maybe even the support units in this box, was going to be that sort of spy element. Well, we've got that, and it's Leia. And we can't have Princess Leia and Boosh Leia on the table together. It just doesn't work. So it's in... I'm not saying it's a terrible box. I'm just saying right now to buy this box and what it does, it really doesn't fit anywhere other than as a standalone box as it is. And as a standalone box, it just isn't really good at all. So because of that, guys, it is scoring 5 points, and it is going to be below Cad Bane's box, down at the bottom of D tier. Fear and Dead Men. Whew! Is this a box? Is this a box? Who have we got in here? We've got the extremely good Darth Vader 2, Darth Vader Emperor's Servant. We've got the Stormtrooper Sergeant, and then we've got the Stormtrooper units themselves, the Stormtrooper Sergeant being the 3, and the Stormtroopers being the 4. And again, Vader's the best character in this box, without a shadow of a doubt. And the other 2 are not amazing, but they will only get better. But as a unit, they work really, really well indeed. Really, really well. I think this is a really, really good pack. I would say that if you are playing Empire at the moment, I would argue that this is definitely one of the 2 packs that I would buy if you were starting out with Empire. And yeah, because of that, it scores really well. It's scoring the same as Dooku. So 8, I can't remember what the points were, like 16, something. I can't remember what the points were now. I've gone past that part of my screen, but yeah, 16 points. So it does put them to the top of A, and it's whether or not this or Dooku is a better box. Now, Jango exists in this box, which is doing a lot of the heavy lifting because the other units in here are struggling a little bit on the newer maps, whereas these guys really aren't. So I think because of that, I am going to put Fear and Dead Men to the top of the list for A tier, and I don't believe anything is going to knock that off its spot. I think they are really, really good, and I can't see them being knocked off there. Lead by example. This is Plo Koon's box. This is another one where we have to choose the secondaries that we are using. And this one's really difficult because this one comes with Commander Wolf, who is very good, by the way. Very good. Stopping the mitigation of crits when you attack is not to be sniffed at by any stretch of the imagination. Really, really good. Plo Koon himself, whilst not a bad character, I think he's a good character, is arguably the weakest character in this pack. But again, as a unit, I think they work really, really well. For my scoring, I have put Wolf in there. I think Wolf overall in this box is slightly better than Ahsoka. There are some matches or some squads where Ahsoka will be the better choice. But I think in this one, I do like putting Wolf in there. These guys score really well. These guys are going to score 13 points, strong across the board. None of these are best in class by any stretch, but strong across the board. Really, really good, solid pack. It's going to put them into B tier. It's going to give them the same points as Appetite for Destruction, so as the Grievous pack. And I do think because of how much these models can be used outside of this box as well, is what's going to just put them above the Appetite for Destruction box. You are rarely going to see these models played outside of this box, really. Every now and then you might do, but usually they're going to be a box. Whereas you could see this box being played by itself, but also you can see it, you see Wolf and the Wolf pack being used elsewhere. You see Ahsoka being used elsewhere as well. So I think that is just going to pip it for me. Ichiwama. This is going to be the first of our 2 Ewok boxes. This is an interesting box. Obviously, it's an Ewok box, and I am counting this as an Ewok box, but you do have the option to make these rebels, but you have to use Leia's and her leadership. But we are going to treat this, and we are going to see this as an Ewok box. I definitely think this is the weaker of the 2. Arguably the support units are the better of the 2 support units in this one. 9 points overall. Ewoks, I think Ewoks as a faction are fine. They're never going to be top tier. I think where you're going to see Ewoks potentially work moving forward is splatterings of them within Rebels. But then you really need Leia to make it work. And we've got another Leia coming who is arguably better. So yeah, I think it was a bit of a swing and a miss with the Ewoks. Ron does some amazing work with them, but I really do think it is more the player than the models themselves. They're going to score 9 points. It's going to put them into C tier, and it is going to put them just above the core box sets and behind Luminara, which I think is about right. Yub Nub, definitely the stronger of the two boxes from the Ewoks. You've got Logray in there, who's really good. I really like this box because it introduced battlefield tactics with the Ewok support units that we've got in there. And then obviously Wicket as the secondary. I think he's a really strong character. I think he's a very good character, or a very good unit. These guys are going to score... Where are we? Yeah, we're going to score just enough to get them into B tier. But it is going to be right down at the bottom end of B tier, which I think is a fair place for them to be. They got a couple of extra little bonus points for having best in class for Ewoks. They kind of maybe almost cheated their way up to B tier, but I think if we're distinguishing between the boxes, this is definitely the better of the two. As a squad, they work absolutely fine, perfectly well, but they're never going to be exceptional. Clone Force 99. Another character pack, or another squad pack where we've got choices, but realistically, it doesn't matter. Both secondary in this box are exceptional. I've picked Crosshair. We've got Hunter, who is amazing. We've got Crosshair, who is amazing. I've given Hunter best in class for for Galactic Republic. I think he really is. There's this new wave of Galactic Republic coming now, and I think, yes, you can play the traditional way, and Obi-Wan is great at that, as are some of the others. But this new way of playing clones under Bad Batch is most definitely the most competitive. Really, the weakest unit in this squad pack is probably Techo, and they're fine. They're absolutely fine. They get a 5 from the optimized squad. There's probably no surprise where these are going, guys. It's straight to the top of S tier, or the only one in S tier, should I say. Really, really good. Very, very strong. Kind of meta setting at the moment. Yeah, definitely my preferred way of playing clones. That's good business. This box, or this squad pack, is overall just not very good at all. It really needs something else to try and make it work. And don't get me wrong, good players can take individual characters from this squad pack and make things work with it. But right now, as a standalone squad, not standalone, but as a squad pack, playing this squad pack with something else, it just really, really doesn't work. Hondo's leadership is just not very good. Hondo, I always forget which it is. Guam, let's just talk about how the metric we use for how good AMG Believer Primary is in this game is how many squad points they bring, right? It's almost like reverse. So if you bring 9 squad points, well, the idea is that you can bring 9 points worth of other models with you, meaning that then balances the fact that you're not as good. If you bring 6 squad points, it means that you can only bring 6 points worth of models with you, meaning that you are that much better, right? Theoretically, 50% better than a character who brings 9 squad points. And let's look at some of those, right? Mace Windu 6 arguably should be a 7. Vader 7. Dooku 7. Luke 7. Anakin 7. Hondo 7. He should have just never been a 7. Cad Bane is a 9. He is a 7. Yeah, it just doesn't work. I love this character. I've always loved him from Rebels and from Clone Wars. But yeah, right now, this box needs an upgrade. 4 points right down at the bottom. You have something I want. This is the Moff Gideon pack. This is the only, I believe, second sort of I would call true Empire box. Yes, we had the Inquisitor box, but really a true Empire box. Let's start with Gideon. I think Gideon's fine. Like, I think, is he fine? He's okay. Like, he's okay. He's good. You know, he's definitely not in contention for best Empire primaries in the game. However, let's talk about really the models, the units that are doing the heavy lifting in this box. First of all, we've got Death Trooper Escort, even not Dark Trooper Escort, Death Trooper Escort, the Rex of the Empire, and boy is he good. He's scoring 4 points by himself. Weirdly, he isn't going to get best in class for Empire. That does go to somebody else. Spoiler warning. But yeah, and then what does get best in class are Dark Troopers. Dark Troopers could have easily cost 5, and I don't think people would have sniffed at and gone, oh, they're a little bit overcosted. Maybe with 1 extra stamina or something. Very, very good unit. Yes, they don't have innate strain. It is a reactive, but even so, still very, very good, solid unit. They score enough to get themselves into A tier, and they do indeed score enough just to get them in between Dooku and Amidala. But yeah, very, very, very good units that are doing a lot of heavy lifting. Gideon is fine. And Gideon, by the way, is a perfectly serviceable primary in the game. He just isn't the optimal primary that you want to run with these. Right? There are other primaries that you maybe want to consider running. So yeah, really good still though. Certified Guild. This is going to be the Mandalorian pack. I was so excited about this pack. A little bit like the Cad Bane pack. It's almost like Scum and Villainy is in my heart. Let's talk about Mando first of all, because he's the standout character in this box. Very, very good. Access to 2 attacks or a push during his activation. Really good leadership. Widespreading leadership as well. So there's lots of tags that he can work with, which is really nice. It gives him a lot of flexibility to be able to build and work with lots of other different factions that are maybe not just Mandalorian. So I do really, really like that. And he's a beast as well, right? He is an absolute beast. What is pulling this box down is absolutely Grief and absolutely IG-11. IG-11 costs 5, and he's a single character unit. Can make 2 attacks, but can't attack the same model twice or same unit twice, which feels really bad. Doesn't quite have enough on his tree to one-shot a lot of things. Has the potential to blow up, which is never good. And then Grief, who has some cool things. Maybe when we see some of the other bounty hunter models come out, could go up in value. But I think, we're waiting for the day where we can swap those characters out for 2 other units that are going to work much, much better. I arguably think that the new models in the Leia box, Han and Chewie in there, work much better than IG-11 in the Mando pack. So it's something that I haven't yet had a chance to play with, but I think could work really, really well. So right now, guys, you're buying this for Mando, and because of that, it does knock him down quite a bit when it comes to his scoring. So he is going to score, or the box is going to score 11 points overall, which is going to put them to the very top of C tier. But really, it's Mando doing the heavy lifting there. and you really don't want to be playing these as a single squad. You want to be taking him out and putting him into, you know, somewhere else to work with, which again is why he just doesn't quite make it up into that B tier. Real quiet like. We've got Han Solo, we've got Chewie, and then we've got the Rebel Commandos. Han is okay. I played a lot of games with Han and Kanan. I say a lot of games, quite a few games with Han and Kanan. But then the moment we saw the Leia card, you look at Leia and you look at Han, and that Leia is just the infinite better version of Han, right? There's no comparison. So he's already been displaced there. He's really struggling as a rebel leader. There are already 2 or 3 rebels ahead of him. So, you know, he's just okay. Chewie, like, maybe in an Ewok list is kind of where he sits. And it's okay, but as a rebel secondary, he is up against some stiff competition, and you really don't see him played too much. And then lastly, the star of this box, obviously, Rebel Commandos. Right now, at least on the... right now, the only 2-unit true Rebel support unit that we've got. Why do I say that? Well, the Ewoks are not Rebels without Leia being there. And the Chewie and Han in the Leia box, the other Leia box, don't actually have the Rebel tag. They're not part of the Rebel Alliance yet, so they don't have the tag. So they're doing a little bit of the heavy lifting here. But I think right now, guys, if you're playing Rebels, you're buying this box for the Rebel Commandos. So that is definitely pushing them down quite a bit. And let me just check where they go. So they do score 11 points. So it is going to give them just enough to get into that B tier, but only just. I think the reason why these made it into B is that you can play these as a squad. There is no bad character in here, whereas in some of the other boxes there are bad units that are in there. There is no bad ones in here. Today the rebellion dies. Iden Versio, Gideon, Del Meeko. We've got the Imperial Special Forces. We've got some... This box, for me, has two of the best-in-class units in the game for Empire right now. And that is Iden. I think Iden is 100% the best leader for Empire. And Gideon Hask is the best secondary unit in the game for Empire right now. You could make an argument between DTE and Gideon, but I think for me personally, Gideon is the best. He does more board wide. And they are just both very, very good characters. And then the support unit, but the supports in this game are probably what lets it down a little bit. You're probably going to want to be taking the rest of the, I nearly said Inferno Squad then, the rest of the Special Forces rather than Del Meeko. He's fine to use, but personally I do prefer taking the Special Forces. There's 2 of them, so that's just going to make it that much better. They do also have the Infiltrate, which lets them deploy within 3, which is really, really helpful. And that's what's going to give you the synergy with Gideon to get the extra results in your dice rolls. And again, because there's 2 of them on the board, you're doubling the sort of number of range 5 bubbles that you've got. They score 19 points. They just pip out Bad Batch and go straight to the top of S tier. Right now, guys, if you want to play Empire, this is the first box you should be starting with. I would say, buy this and buy the Darth Vader box, and you are in. Or even the Gideon box, the Moff Gideon box, and you're in really, really good shape in terms of an Empire list. Okay, make the impossible possible. This is the first of our 2 Ghost Squad packs, or Spectres as they are also known. This is the Hera version of it, and already this box has kind of lost a little bit of its potency, because not only do we have a better option for a second rebel leader, we also have, now I would argue, 2 other secondary units that are ahead of Sabine. Sabine's still amazing, but 2 ahead of Sabine. And really quite a few support units who are better than Chopper. Now, Chopper's fine, right? He's absolutely fine. You know, for me, Sabine is the best model in this pack. I think where you're really going to see her shine is when we do get Mandalorians, and we can play that full Mandalorian list where we've got Mando, we've got Sabine as her secondary, and then we've got the armourer pack that we may even see this week, guys. We may even see that this week. But yeah, this box is definitely the lesser of the 2. You may be surprised by this, guys, but it is going to score 8 points, which puts it on par. Actually, no, 7 points, which is going to put it to the bottom of C tier. If you want to play Rebels, this isn't even the first 2 or 3 packs that I would be buying. And unless you've got a specific plan for some of these models, or, and this is a valid argument, right? Or you want to play full Ghost Crew. And that is not a bad setup, and that is absolutely viable, and definitely something you can do. But this box is not the one doing the heavy lifting. The one that is doing the heavy lifting, Stronger Than Fear. Kanan is the best rebel leader that we have right now. There is, I think, no argument against that. Or if you do, then I think you're kind of wrong. So he's getting best in class for that. Ezra was, up until very recently, the best rebel secondary in the game. But he's still very, very good. And, you know, Zeb, I would still rather take Rebel Commandos. I would rather take 2 Rebel Commando units rather than a Zeb. But of the options that we have available to us right now, Zeb is definitely the second best support unit for Rebels. So, yeah, they are scoring out at 17 points, which puts them just behind Bad Batch. And I think, you know, if we hadn't have seen these last 2 boxes, they may have just pipped it, because Ezra may have got some bonus points, but they didn't manage to do it. So let's talk about the first of our 2 packs that we don't actually have in hand, right? So all of these boxes up until now we've got in hand. The next 2 we don't yet have. So this is some Rescue. This is the new Rebel box. For those that have not seen the cards, they're available to go and find them. Go look at Point Break or something like that. We've got Princess Leia, who is going to bring 8 squad points, and then we've got Luke, the Daring Hero, who costs 3, and then we've got the Han and Chewie. But weirdly, whilst it looks like a Rebel box, this is actually a Spy box. So Spy is the tag that all 3 units share, which I do like. I like that we're getting into this realm of being able to build squads and strike teams around something other than primary tags. We're now looking at the secondary and, you know, potentially even the tertiary tags within units. I've played quite a few games with her. She, for me, pairs alongside Kanan exceptionally well. The other 2 models in the pack do let them down a little bit, but I still think, so I still do think they're pretty good. And overall as a squad pack, there is a lot of synergy in this squad pack. I was quite surprised. Now, the thing that it is lacking is some other spies to go with it, right? Because that's the main thing. But there's some really nice things going with it. This would be even higher if Han and Chewie had the Rebel tag, because that would then just be a complete box that I think you could take very, very easily. But you probably want to be swapping out Han and Chewie, which means then you probably want to be swapping out Luke, because you don't want to be playing a point down. But even with all that being said and done, this is a really, really good squad pack. And if you are going to play Rebels, or you want to lean into that spy side of things, which I think could become really interesting, it's definitely a box I would say to pick up. It's scoring same points as a few of these up here, so it is going to make its way into A tier. So I have to sort of choose, and I think right now, because of where it is and the lack of additional spies, yes, as a Rebel box, it's really good. Even with Han and Chewie as a Rebel, it's absolutely fine. Or not having the Rebel tag, it's absolutely fine. I'm going to put it just behind Moff Gideon at the moment, but very, very strong. Leia for me is definitely my second choice of primaries when it comes to Rebels at the moment. And I think is definitely a box that is one that I'm going to be excited to get hold of and paint up as well, even though there's a hell of a lot of white on it, which other than yellow is probably my least favourite colour to paint. And then rounding it out, guys, at least for now, and who knows, maybe there's 2 or 3 more squad boxes that we can add to this once we have finished up with Ministravaganza. It is going to be No Accepting Surrenders. Arguably my favourite character in all of Star Wars, which is Thrawn. We've also got Agent Kallus in here, and we've got the ISBs. Thrawn is good. Thrawn is good. He is of all the Empire leaders, I would say he is the least point and click one, right? Vader, point him, click him, roll your dice, does damage, murders things. Thrawn isn't that, right? He's only bringing 2 force with him, but you can reserve for 1 force less, which means in most cases you're reserving for 3, unless you're coming up against a Moff Gideon or something like that. Really, really good secondary in this box in Agent Kallus. In fact, a very, very good secondary. And Agent Kallus is winning the best in class, but he's not winning the best in class for Empire. For me right now, Kallus is the best in class secondary for Rebels. Yes, with Kallus you choose, do you want him to be a Rebel or do you want him to be Galactic Empire? And then he gets access to other tags. Weirdly, he gets the spy tag, but only in Empire. But where he really works well is as a Spectre, because he gets the Rebel Alliance tag, he gets the Scoundrel tag, and he gets the Spectre tag. So going in that Squad 2 in a Kanan-led list, he works really, really well. Spend 1 force, and effectively for Ezra and for Kanan, whenever they are attacking or defending, 1 force, they're going to be able to reroll 3 dice, which is very, very good. And there's no range restriction on that either. He's also a very self-sufficient character, so he's the one that is definitely propping this box up. However, I still don't think that Thrawn, and need more game time with him, but I don't think Thrawn is in that top tier of primaries for Empire right now. Again, very much more of a scalpel than a hammer, like somebody like Iden or Vader, or even Gideon to that extent. His battlefield cards can be really good if they turn up at the right time and you get the right ones, but if they're the last 2 cards in your deck, then they feel really bad. So it's really interesting. His leadership lets you refresh, his identity lets you refresh your order deck when a primary is wounded, which again is, you know, really interesting mechanic. ISBs are fine. You know, they are a 3 cost. So, you know, they represent that. They've got the really nice thing that the Mandalorian super commandos have, where if you disengage with them, then you're going to take damage, which is quite cool. The tree's fine, so I think, you know, pretty solid. So overall, guys, they are going to score 13 points, I think it is in total, which does take them to where does it take them? Let me check. Yeah, it does get them into B tier, which I think is about right for these guys at the moment. But it is going to be same points as Plo Koon. And I think because we've got a best-in-class character here in Kallus, who is just absolutely amazing, we're going to put them in there. And as a squad, they do work quite well together indeed. So there we go, guys. That is me ranking every single squad pack based on those rules and those points that I outlined earlier. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Are you surprised? Is there some on here that you think should be much higher? I think the Cad Bane one for me was a real surprise, but when you think about it, overall that box isn't great. I don't think there's any surprises with the top 3. There's an argument to say that Vader could have been or could be at the very bottom of A. Sorry, very bottom of S tier, but I think having 3S and 3D is nice, and I think it shows that the game is actually in a pretty decent state when it comes to overall balance. But one of the things I want to take a quick look at now is this idea of power creep in the game itself. And I think, guys, we have to say that whilst not every single squad pack that has been released is over the past, let's say, 3 months, 4 months, is exceptional, when you look at what those characters get and those units get versus some of their older counterparts, let's take something, for example, we've got 2 characters there. We've got Kanan and we have got Mother Talzin, okay? They both have a very similar identity, okay? When one of your units is wounded, then each of those characters get to make a move. Now, Kanan gets a jump, Mother Talzin gets a dash, okay? So there's already a discrepancy there. A jump is infinitely better than a dash because it can do everything a dash that can do, but you can change elevation as well. So that's the first thing. And then they both make a 5 dice attack. Mother Talzin's has to be a ranged attack. Kanan's can either be a ranged or it can be a melee. So that's another difference, right? Ranged is fine, but being able to do either is, again, infinitely better, because if you're pinned on Mother Talzin and you're engaged, well, you've no way of being able to disengage, therefore you can't do the range attack. With Kanan, it doesn't matter, right? Because you can jump and you can move and things. And the other reason is, and the reason why it doesn't matter, Mother Talzin has to target the unit that wounded. Kanan can target anybody. And Kanan's also works when he is wounded as well, whereas Talzin's only works on other characters. So they're both 8 squad points. If you look at the rest of their card, there's not too much of a difference in terms of, you know, what each of those characters can do, right? Kanan's got a little bit extra with, you know, when you activate him, he gets to refresh force or he gets to do movements. Mother Talzin's is she just gets to do a movement with her tactic. But my point is that you've got 2 4-threat characters, 2 primaries there that each bring 8 squad points. So on paper, those characters should be comparable with what they do. They have similar identities. one of those is infinitely better than the other. They both have access to movement. One of those is infinitely better than the other because you get to move a unit with a tag, same as Talzin, but also you get to move yourself. Talzin doesn't. So this is where we're starting to see some discrepancies, and it has to be put down to power creep, right? Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that there are not some units that were released early on that are still exceptional. Jango Fett is a great example of that. Obi-Wan 2 out of hiding, who we didn't put either of those models in this list because they're not a squad pack, but you know, they would be ranked high. They're still pretty good. But the only metric we have to compare units in this game are either the squad points they bring or the squad points they cost. And I think there is just such a discrepancy between characters with the same costings and what they do and what they bring. And it's something that AMG really need to look at before we get too far into this game, because the way in which these squad packs are built is great on one hand. I mentioned at the beginning, it means that from a marketing standpoint, it's really easy. From a player consumption standpoint, from an entry point, it's really easy. You buy a box, you've got everything you need. Is it optimized? No, but you've got everything you need if you go and buy 2 squad packs, dice and whatever else, but you can pick them up elsewhere. But it's also prohibitive in terms of what threats certain characters can be. I always say threats because of MCP, what point value each of these characters are, and we are definitely seeing a discrepancy with the same point-based characters being at completely different ends of the spectrum. And as with most games, guys, it's only usually a little tweak of 1 or 2 things here or there that would make a big difference, right? I spoke about clone commandos in Luminara box. They're really bad. Give them an extra 1 or 2 1 or 2 health, 1 or 2 stamina, and they'll be absolutely fine. IG, I always forget if it's 11 or 88, the IG droid, giving him an extra 2 damage on his tree, letting him attack somebody else would make him feel more like a 5 cost. So there is a big discrepancy in terms of 2 characters with the same point value and what they are able to do in the game right now. And I do think, we look at this list, and with the exception of in the top 5, with the exception of 1 box, the last 4 boxes are very, very recent releases. Cad Bane, Count Dooku is the only exception to that. And arguably, that box is only there because Jango is such a good character. Probably too good if we're being brutally honest. But there we go, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? As always, these are just my opinions. And, they will change on a release-by-release basis because other things can bump things up and also indeed knock things down. I want to give a big shout out, guys, to all of our Patreons. Thank you so much for all of your support. It really, really does mean the world. And if you do want to support us on Patreon, you can do so by visiting the link down in the description below, or indeed you can become a YouTube member and hit that join button. But you don't need to do either of those things to support the channel. Just simply commenting, liking, subscribing and sharing the content really, really does help, and it really goes a long, long way. Also want to give another big shout out to Leotis Games, the sponsor of the channel, and we do have our first ever Shatterpoint team event coming up on the 5th of October at Leotis Games. Tickets are limited. If you're interested, reach out and let me know, and based on where we are, I'll either put you on a waiting list or we may even have a ticket available for you straight away. So reach out to me, Discord, Facebook, wherever else, and let me know if you are interested. Join the Discord, guys. It's where you see announcements on everything we do. We're not going to be running any events now over this summer. We're going to have July and August off, but we're going to be coming back in September, where we'll be continuing to run some virtual events for Shatterpoint and for MCP. I did play my first elimination game in the episode 4 final for the TTS League. I did win, so I'm now through to the quarterfinals, which I'm very, very happy about. So hopefully 3 games away from taking that down, but we will see how it goes. Some really, really good players in there. So yeah, we'll see if I can manage that or not. And as always, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, may the Force be with you.